The Republicans, are also blundering in a big way. If you look at the extreme right, which is the heart of the Republican Party, they have gone back to the American dream and how all these protesters are a nuisance, and actually change cannot come about through this way, but by individual action. You need to, really, the Horatio Alger myth and all these things that they've built up over time is a land of opportunity. You just have to work hard and individually, and you will be fine, right? You'll be rich and you'll be glorious. And now all the social action, this coming together is really, really disconcerting to them. So at the end of the day, if you have to make really a call, even though there are right-wing factions in the Democratic Party, if at all you have to make a call as to who will benefit from this movement, it will have to be Obama. He's the only person in the spectrum right now who can capitalize on it, harking back to his first election campaign and also to his community organizing days and to that spirit, which had brought him to power in the first place. The right, I think, all the Republican contenders are going to be like, pussyfooted about this. They have no clue how to respond to this movement. They had many of them had funded the Tea Party movement and so on, which is in many ways the converse of this. But the Tea Party is very, very minuscule in the kind of interests and the population it represents, mostly extremist thinkers. But here you have like the silent majority, no longer silent.
So US unemployment is currently at 9.1%, and recent US history shows that no president has succeeded in re-election at such a high level of unemployment. There are two important things where Obama has to really work on. We are joined by right now a caller from Patna, Bihar, Mr. Gautam. Please put your question.
Hello ma'am, good evening ma'am.
Ji.
And actually I want to ask two questions from the expert sitting in a studio.
Yes, please.
I was asking this, my first question would be, how can this strike going to affect the political prospect of American economy?
Okay.
And the second question was, will it strike affect the upcoming presidential election of America?
All right. Thank you very much, Gautam, for those questions. Basically, both the questions relating to the political prospects and how exactly the situation is going to be, Dr. Chaulia.
Yeah, I think America. People have always said is like one party with two branches. The left has always criticized both Democrats and Republicans as hopelessly embedded into the capitalist mode. But I think from time to time you have polarization, like you have today, where the word banker has an ugly connotation in Main Street. And this is the kind of juncture where it is possible to envision the Democratic Party going much further to the left than it has in decades. And I think that is going to happen. Otherwise, the point is that you have a system which does not allow the rise of third party. And in this kind of predicament, I think the positioning will be towards what is called the median voter, who's somewhere in the middle. And the Republicans will not be able to adjust to that simply because their core constituency are exactly the banks who have been funding them. In fact, Mr. Madhavan mentioned the fundraisers. Obama is being slowly, his camp is being deserted by the big bankers. In fact, even Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan, who was supposed to be Obama's favorite banker, is now hedging, and there is no clear endorsement from him for Obama's re-election. So you have a situation where the realignment in the political forces will be such that I believe that the administration will go leftward, and the Republicans will continue to bank on campaign financing. Campaign financing is not going to win you an election. It can only help you set up a platform from which you can, reach out. But now, with alternative forms of outreach, Obama's done it once, and I'm sure he can do it again.
Joined by a caller right now from Orissa, Mr. Sangram. Please put your question.
Ma'am, hello.
Ji.
Ma'am, my question is regarding the crisis in US economy. As we know, most of the Asian economies are heavily dependent upon the US economy.
That's right.
So, how far the crisis of US will affect the Indian economy and most of the Southeast Asian economy?
Okay. Thank you very much, Sangram, for that question. Mr. Chaulia, basically everybody would really like to know what is going to be the impact on our economies.
It will shave off a point or two from our growth rate. And I don't think, the BRICS have survived with 1 or 2 points less of economic growth since 2008. Russia was the one who was badly hit, but the rest did not. So sometimes, in fact, my most recent column in the Financial Express, I was arguing about how there is a limit to interdependence and to the so-called coupling, because sometimes we overemphasize the interdependence aspects. What we are seeing is that, certainly as Mr. Madhavan said, China will be affected somewhat more, but they are still already in the process of reorienting towards domestic consumption, away from export dependency. And so it's an ongoing process. We will be perhaps affected even less because ours is domestic consumption-based economic growth. But at the end of the day, we will take 6 or 7%. We are nowhere close to a recession, which is 2 quarters of negative growth. So that's not happening. And what it will do is it will hurt some segments of our economy and some segments of East Asian economies that this caller just mentioned. But I think we will still emerge relatively better off because the structural conditions are better. Demographically, we have younger population, productivity, the pent-up growth that had been suppressed for a long time is still emerging. We have not reached a saturation point. And for the OECD economies to emerge, I don't know, it may be a decade or longer. It's a depression. I mean, let's face it. I mean, whether you want to indulge in technicalities about it, whether it's a recession or depression doesn't matter to the 99% who is out in Zuccotti Park.
Okay, so there are rising troubles there for the incumbent president in America as the faith, especially on the US economy, is evaporating ahead of the 2012 presidential election. So we are joined by a caller right now from Chennai. Narayan, please put your question.
Hello.
Yes.
I am Narayan speaking from Chennai.
Yes.
I am listening to your program very regularly, and it's very interesting. Before that, I have got some information released by Bank of International Settlements. The information is like this. They are giving the information of 30 largest banks in the world. The top bank is Citigroup. In that information, what they have said is, in the first 30 banks, US is having 8 big banks with total assets of $45 billion. Japan is having 4 banks with total assets of $37 billion. China is having only 2 banks with total assets of $10 billion. The shareholders' equity of US 8 banks is $3.30 lakh billion. Of Japan, 4 banks is $1.13 lakh billion only. China, 2 banks, it is less than $1 lakh billion, that is $0.8 billion. The Tier 1 capital ratio of US 8 banks is 10%.
Mr. Narayan, your question, please, if you can.
Is 5% only. China's 5 banks, 2 banks, it is only 6%.
Mr. Narayan, can you hear my voice, Mr. Narayan?
Yeah.
Please put your question if you have any.
Yeah, see, with such a big economy, managing even after the 2008 crisis, with this position, how do you say the US problem is very dangerous and it is going to affect the world at large?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Narayan, for that question.
I'd like to just respond. The statistics are interesting because it just shows how over-financialized the American economy was. And to the point that banks became larger than life, and you started. Gordon Gekko became such a big cultural figure, Wall Street, and they created this whole aura around themselves, which has come crashing down the last 3 years. And what it means is that you need to go back to the so-called real economy. You have to take back the real economy, do productivity, produce something. It's all financial.
It's very simple. It's a lot like individuals. If I have X income, I can borrow 10x, 20x. But if I have X income and borrow 200x, that means I'm over borrowed. In Wall Street language, it's saying over leveraged. So the American economy had leveraged too much. Very interesting, there was a time when American companies and American Wall Street and American economy were all in a closed loop. Now in a globalized economy, American companies investing in Asia means that there is no guarantee that American investment benefits American economy. That's why after all India is waiting for FDI in India. So it's American savings were coming into India, now Japanese savings were coming into India. India has delivered growth in return. But the point is, what happens to America's growth? And therefore, the big question is the US will have to reform the financial system and reform its own real economy and connect the two dots so that the American people get the benefit of the American economic measures. That applies to India as well. You know, as I heard someone saying, Indian companies are investing abroad. So that should also benefit Indians if they want support from the Indians. So you need to have a closer, the financial economy is like the shadow. The real economy is the substance. By putting a huge floodlight behind, you don't become tall. Only your shadow becomes tall.
That's
so
right.
This is where the analogy lies.
That is right. But we know that India's exports to the US are particularly in the IT services. They are going to be, there's going to be some big impact on that, if at all, let's say recession comes completely in US.
We have to look at alternately, now Jim O'Neill has come up with MIST, Mexico, Indonesia, South Korea, Turkey, as the next set of emerging economies, which will generate significant amount of economic activity, productivity, and suck in a lot of capital from elsewhere. So I think, diversification is the name of the game, and adjustments will be made. We will still emerge, I would say, not unscathed, but we will emerge stronger. We will enter into a multipolar world as a result of the continued dip in OECD fortunes, especially in Europe and North America. So we are finding a more balanced world. I think there is reason to be hope that these young people who are out in Zuccotti Park are, beckoning for, a reordering of the American economic structure, and eventually it will deliver justice. We hope, and I think, just as we say, every American presidential election is the whole world is a silent electorate. I think in this case, a protest in America, we are all watching, with a great concern and with hopes that this will actually transform and turn around, will turn a corner.
Okay, certainly. So it's time not only to talk, but also walk the talk. Thanks very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, ma'am, for participating. So that's all we have for you in this edition of Public Forum. Thanks for watching us. Good night.